Hey guys, here we are again. So today I'm going to be showing you how to replace an oil cooler line on an older Chevy 350. So this what I have here is a 92 Chevy 350. It's a 3/4 ton. It is my work truck and it is also my plow truck. You can kind of see down there. So I wanted to get to this before the snow started to fly. That way I wasn't doing this in the freezing cold and the wet. It is kind of cold here in Utah, at the end of November. We're nearing Thanksgiving here. So I wanted to get it done before it got much colder. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you what happened. So on this truck in particular, I actually sprung a leak in the rubber portion of the line. And I'll show you that the line actually consists of a metal portion and also a rubber portion. That way it's got a little bit of flexibility and strength in it as well. On this task, you're going to need probably 2 to 3 tools. The first thing is a 3/4 inch wrench. You can also substitute that for a crescent wrench if you want to, but just make sure that you have that on there tight so you don't end up stripping the line and causing further annoyances or problems later down the road. The other tools you might need are a pair of pliers to pull out the end line that is not threaded. It's actually got a little clip on it, and a screwdriver might not be a bad idea as well, just in case. And I'll go ahead and show you exactly what the line looks like. That way you get a better idea of what we're looking at and how easy this task really is. So let's get into it. So here it is. This is the line that I bought from my local Napa Auto Parts store. It's an 821-5019, and that is the upper oil cooler line. That's the inlet. Now Chevy, when you go and buy one, you're going to need to know what axle gear ratio you have in the truck. So they were different. The 410s were different than the 383s and stuff like that. That way you got to just make sure you know exactly what gearing you have in your vehicle. Mine's got the 410s in it. It's a 3/4 ton truck, but it's actually the light 3/4 ton truck. So it only has the 6 lug axles instead of the 8 lug axles. So just be aware of that. And here are the tools that you're going to need. You'll need a 3/4 wrench. You could also, like I say, substitute it for a crescent wrench if you want. A pair of pliers, and then also, like I say, it might not hurt to also have a flathead screwdriver just to be safe. And as you can see here, here's the line. Here's that nut that I was telling you about that you're going to need for that 3/4 inch wrench. Be sure not to lose the O-ring there on the end, because that's what helps it seal. And if we come here to this other side, and this is the side that's going to clip in with a plastic clip. So be sure not to damage that in any sort of way. Keep that on there just to make sure you don't get any scratches or damages to that line. So let's go ahead and show you the problems that I'm facing here. So like I say, here's my 3/4 ton Chev. It is a 92. I've got the hood popped already, so what you're going to need to do is go in there, pop the hood. If the hood doesn't pop, you got to know the Chevy trick of banging on the hood itself. But the magical, glorious Chevy 350 here. So as you can see, I've actually reversed my air cleaner lid. That way I can get a little bit better airflow, kind of an old school trick the guys used to do back in the day. It does help with towing purposes, and just help the airflow, the engine breathe a little bit better. So down here, let's see if I can get a good enough shot of it. Down there, you can see right underneath that radiator hose, that's the 3/4 inch line that we're going to be disconnecting. It's attached to your radiator, and the radiator also has a built-in oil cooler. And then from there, if you follow it down, you can kind of see down there those 2 hoses right there. That is your upper and lower oil cooler lines. And I'm going to see if I can get a shot of what I'm talking about. You can kind of see down there right around that area. That's where I've sprung the leak. And so it's been dripping all over the driveway and in the garage. And that's what we're going to take care of today. So let's kind of jump into it and let's get started. So first we're going to start by removing the upper radiator hose. Be prepared that there may be some coolant that comes out, and you are going to want to make sure that you do this while the engine's cold. I would hate to have you remove this hose while the engine's hot, because it will spray all over the place because it will be pressurized. And on top of that, you run a risk of burning yourself pretty good. See, now we got some pretty good access there to that line. So let me grab my wrenches and we will tear that thing apart. All right, so now we've got good access to that line. Let's see what we can do to remove it. Got my trusty crescent wrench here. And like I say, you gotta make sure that you adjust the wrench to the right size. That way you're not ending up stripping this guy. And it looks like we need to go just a hair bigger. There we go. And then once we go there, let's give it a good twist to loosen it up. Just keep going with it. Now you may see some oil dripping out of it. That's normal because it is an oil cooler line, so it should probably have a little bit of oil in it. That's not a big deal. Once you get it loose enough, you can spin it by hand. Apparently we're not quite there yet, so we're going to keep going with the wrench. It might be easier if you have a smaller crescent wrench than what I got here. As you can see, the handle's pretty long and it's kind of getting in the way of everything else. Make sure that you do also have something underneath the oil cooler line and the radiator hose to collect the oil that may be dripping out of there. And there we go. So now we've got the old line out there. And as you can see, the O-ring's been smashed. So you want to make sure that you collect it from within there. That way you're not double stacking O-rings. And see, I think that one's actually been so smashed and disintegrated that it's not even there. So now let's go underneath the truck and I'll show you exactly what it looks like under there. All right, now that we're underneath the truck, you can see here's those oil cooler lines that I was telling you about. This is the bottom side of them. You'll want to find the one that's leaking. And as you can see there, that top one is the one that's leaking. That's the one we're looking at. It's leaking down onto that lower one there. So you'll follow the lines. They run above the axle. You can see them still running there, and there they are. They're connected to the oil filter housing, or the mounting. So that bottom one that you can see there, that's the one I actually replaced last year. So what we're looking at is the one that's right above that. It looks identical to that fitting from the bottom one. So if we can focus there onto that bottom guy, maybe. There we go. You'll see the clips. These are the plastic clips I was telling you about. So you're going to have to pinch them and pull the line out. And make sure you don't bust off that clip because you're going to need it for the new line. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so sorry I didn't show the actual removal and installation of the new line. Down there it's so super tight and hard to see. I mean, it's hard enough to get your hands up in there and do that as well. So I went ahead and did that, ran the line. When you're running the line, you also want to make sure that you're running it back into the factory location and make sure that it's not in the way of the fan or the belts and pulleys. So once you do that, you can then run it back up to the oil cooler itself. And there's a couple ways you can do that. I mean, you just pick and choose the best way that suits your truck and or the way that it used to be. And then so once we get it up here, we can then reinstall it back into the oil cooler. Just get it in there. I like to just start the threads with my hand. That way you know you're not cross-threading it in any sort of way. And once you get that started, you know, you can just go as far as you can with your hand to like hand tighten it in there. There we go. So now we're in there. Now we can grab the wrench, and this time I'm going to actually use the 3/4 inch wrench instead of my crescent wrench, just so it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go grab that and we'll get that tight. All right, so let's go ahead and get her tightened up. A couple turns here. You could also use what's called like a line wrench. That kind of, it surrounds the nut more. Instead of just getting on either side of the nut, it actually covers about 3/4 of the nut. That's also a good way of doing it. Now this is something you don't need to go super crazy with, but you do want it tight to ensure that there's no leaks. And you want to get a little bit of pressure on that O-ring that's in there. Once that's finished, we can go ahead and take your radiator line back, stick it back onto your radiator, and then grab your screwdriver and tighten up that hose clamp again. Now you will have lost a little bit of oil in that installation. So what you're going to want to do is either take this opportunity and change your oil in your truck, or just double check and make sure that you have the proper oil level in there. So I actually drained the oil out of here just because I planned on doing an oil change in it anyways before the winter, before plow season. So I drained it, so now I just need to go ahead and do an oil change in it. But that's it. I mean, it's a super easy installation of the oil cooler line. You know, you only need three basic tools to get this job done. And I'd say maybe, you know, it probably took me a total of 45 minutes to do so. Nothing big. If you're more experienced, you can do that as well. Probably a lot quicker. But yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to comment and let me know, and I'll see you next time.